You meet her at a local coffee shop near campus on a rainy Tuesday. She is reading a worn paperback book, and when you ask her about it, she smiles and explains the plot with so much passion that you barely listen. You are too busy staring at her. You are 26 years old, earning $52,000 a year at a mid-level marketing firm, driving a beat-up sedan with a check engine light that has been glowing for over a year, and sharing a small apartment with a roommate. She drives a sleek silver car you cannot even identify. Yet when you ask her out to a cheap Italian restaurant, she says yes without a second of hesitation. At dinner, she orders the cheapest pasta on the menu to spare your pride, and within weeks, you fall completely in love. She makes the entire noisy world go quiet. Then comes the night that changes everything. Out of sheer curiosity, you type her last name into an internet search bar, and your stomach drops straight through the floor. Her father appears on a world-famous billionaire list with a 10-digit net worth next to his name. You read the same paragraph 4 times, set your phone down, and stare at the wall in total disbelief. You realize you are hopelessly out of your depth, and your immediate instinct is to run before things get serious. A working-class guy doesn't marry into a dynasty like that. But when she calls you later that night and laughs at your worst joke, you decide to stay and see where the path leads, completely unaware of what you just signed up for. 2 years pass in a blur, and at 28, you save every spare dollar for 8 months to buy a $4,000 engagement ring. You propose on a public hiking trail because it costs nothing and belongs to both of you, and she cries while saying yes before you even finish the sentence. But the fairy tale shatters just 1 week later when a private car arrives to take you to her family's massive walled estate. The front gate takes 90 seconds to open, and the driveway is longer than the street you grew up on. Inside, her father shakes your hand and asks what your family does. When you state plainly that your father fixed heating and air conditioning units for 30 years, something flickers in the old man's eyes, a mix of cold evaluation and quiet judgment. Then the family attorneys enter the room. They slide a dense prenuptial agreement across the polished table stating you walk away with absolutely nothing if the marriage ends. You sign it immediately without hesitation, needing them to see that you are not there for the money. Across the dining table, her brother stares at you with eyes as cold as a bank vault, viewing you as either an intruder or a temporary joke. The wedding itself is not yours. It is a massive corporate networking event with 600 elite guests, high-ranking politicians, and security detail everywhere, while your mother stands proudly in a simple dress she bought on sale. After a brief honeymoon, you move into a guest house on the family estate that is larger than any home you have ever lived in. Every morning, the domestic staff calls you, sir, making you flinch because you do not know how to live around household help. When you try to make your own bed, your wife gently asks you to stop because it confuses the staff. You are now legally part of the family, but in reality, every single day is an unannounced job interview where you are put on trial, learning very quickly that in this world, silence and observation are your only protection. You are 29, living in the shadow of a dynasty, and constantly forced to navigate a high-stakes world built on unspoken rules, subtle glances, and hidden power dynamics. To survive, you start spending your early mornings in the massive private library on the estate, devouring books on global markets, corporate structures, and equity management. When the patriarch notices you studying, you ask him a genuine question about an old corporate acquisition. He pauses, sits down, and speaks to you for an hour straight. In that moment, you earn an inch of his respect, and in a world like this, an inch is everything. When your wife gives birth to your first child, the atmosphere shifts again. Grandchildren represent bloodline continuity, and the old man's tone subtly softens toward you. Realizing your old marketing job has become completely absurd compared to the scale of this family, you leave it behind. But sitting idle feels like a slow poison to your self-worth. So you begin attending high society charity galas, learning the names of every power player, and carefully studying the family's inner circle. You notice that the patriarch trusts almost no one because everyone wants something from him. You make a silent decision to ask for nothing openly and simply render yourself useful behind the scenes. Seeing your discipline, the patriarch hands you your first real trial, a failing corporate division that is bleeding capital and ignored by the rest of the family. Throwing yourself into the work, you discover years of internal financial mismanagement and an executive taking unauthorized funds. You fire the individuals responsible, hands trembling under the desk during the first termination, and 18 months later, you turn the division profitable. At the next family dinner, the patriarch gives you a firm nod of approval. But that success instantly makes you a target. Your wife's brother, realizing you are a legitimate threat to his inheritance, begins planting quiet rumors against you and delaying your operational approvals. You learn quickly that elite families never fight out in the open. They fight through proxies, delayed funding, and subtle reputation damage. By 38, you earn a permanent seat on the central board of directors, overseeing global real estate portfolios, shipping fleets, and private banking assets. While other board members view you as a commoner who married up, you outwork everyone in the room by reading every contract in full and asking the difficult questions no one else dares to voice. The patriarch begins consulting you privately before major meetings, valuing your blunt, respectful honesty in a room full of sycophants. Out of desperation, your brother-in-law attempts to push a self-serving business deal through the board. But you calmly dismantle the proposal using hard figures in front of the entire table. As the years pass, you transition into the family's quiet fixer, handling sensitive disputes, managing high-profile crises, and resolving delicate legal issues entirely out of the public eye. Power slowly separates you from ordinary life, but your loyalty to your wife never wavers. Decades later, as the patriarch's health fails in his final winter, he calls you to his bedside alone. He admits his own son cannot hold the enterprise together, and officially appoints you as the sole trustee and steward of the entire estate, entrusting you to protect the family from its own destruction. Standing at the head of a multi-billion-dollar empire at 60 years old, wearing a bespoke suit in a cathedral full of world leaders, you realize the ultimate truth. The money, the status, and the control were never the prize. The real victory was keeping your integrity intact, protecting the woman you loved, and surviving a world that was designed to consume you whole.